I just wanted to take a moment and share a little bit why we named our son Zadok and who Zadok was in the scriptures, because I've found people think the name is pretty cool, but very few people actually know his story in the Bible. Zadok was alive during the time of King David and King Solomon. So during that day, Zadok was a priest in the house of the Lord. And here are some significant things that Zadok did. So he was one of the guys who helped bring the Ark of the Covenant back into the city of Jerusalem whenever David became king. But Zadok wasn't actually the high priest during the days of David. It wasn't until the end of David's life and the end of David's reign as king, King David decides, I'm going to pass down the throne to my son Solomon. Well, during that time, there was an older son of David's that made a play for the throne. And during that time, the main high priest of the day decided, you know what, I'm going to side with this other son of David's, and I'm going to kind of throw my lot in with him and see if we can get him elected to be the next king. So whenever the other son of David was making his play for the throne and the high priest of the day was siding with him, Zadok the priest and, cool enough, Nathan the prophet, they went to David and they told him, listen, there's a conspiracy happening right now. I know you chose Solomon to be the next king. However, there's a whole crew that is trying to elect your other son. And David was like, okay, we have to move quickly, take Solomon to this particular place, anoint him as king. Let's announce it to the public and let's just get this moving before they do this for my other son. And so Zadok was the guy who anointed Solomon as the next king. Originally, Solomon was going to let bygones be bygones. Usually that would be very offensive to the new king, that you sided with this other guy. You thought my brother should be king instead. That's pretty offensive. But Solomon was like, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to, for the sake of peace, let things go. Well, the problem was the other brother who did not become king, he decided to ask for one of Solomon's wives. He goes, well, if I can't be king, can I at least have, this particular beautiful woman of yours that is one of your wives? And that greatly offended King Solomon. Solomon basically said, you know what, I was merciful to you originally, but nah, that's the last straw. You want one of my wives? Why don't you just basically ask for the kingdom itself? I mean, that was, in that day, almost the equivalent to asking for the throne would be to ask for one of the king's wives. And so he said, I'm going to eliminate you. And so he ended up killing that brother. And then he went back to the high priest of that day who had sided with his brother. And he said, you know what? You sided with him, so I'm going to go ahead and eliminate you as well. And so when that happened, Zadok, who was one of the priests, got promoted to being the high priest because of his loyalty to the throne of David and to the throne of Solomon, which we come to know later in the scriptures that is the messianic line. Jesus came through the lineage of King David. So it passed from David to Solomon and so on and so forth, all the way to Jesus. And just to top off the story of Zadok, you see later on in Ezekiel chapter 44, this is talking about the new Jerusalem and the millennial reign when Jesus is here ruling as king. It says that the sons of Zadok, the lineage, those who came through the line of Zadok, who kept the charge of the Lord's sanctuary when the people of Israel went astray. In that day, in the future day, the sons of Zadok shall come near to the Lord to minister to him, and they shall enter his sanctuary, and they shall keep his charge. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing. It's describing a time where the rest of Israel had fallen away from the Lord, but the sons of Zadok, the lineage of Zadok, stayed loyal to the Lord. And because of that, they will be rewarded in the millennial kingdom with nearness to the Lord. They get to come near to him in his sanctuary, and they get to minister directly to him. And so when my wife and I just kind of took a look at the story of Zadok, all of those things that I mentioned, brought the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem, was loyal to King David and King Solomon, was the high priest in Solomon's day, the most prosperous time of Israel's history. And then his future generations will be rewarded because the sons of Zadok stayed loyal to the Lord when the rest of Israel went astray, and kept his charge in the sanctuary, and will get to keep his charge in the sanctuary. I mean, it was a no-brainer. We have to name our son Zadok Charge.